Have you ever had a day where you repeated yourself 5 times? Your kid still didn't do the thing. And by noon, maybe 1, you were raising your voice, feeling like a failure and wondering why nothing you do seems to work with that kiddo. Yeah, me too. And so did every single mom in my coaching group this past couple weeks. Here's what we discovered, and I think it's going to shift something for you too. We had a conversation about what really gets them listening. We asked, why won't they listen? What are they really thinking about? What are they preoccupied with? What's actually happening in their brain right now? That one question changes what you do in the moment. It changes how you feel about yourself as a mom, and it changes what your kiddo actually experiences from you. I know that sounds like a big promise, so let me show you exactly what I mean. First of all, I want to acknowledge, I want to honor the fact that you're having an experience with a kiddo that's challenging. I get it. Been there, done that. More than 4 times. 4 times because I have 4 kids. Certain kiddos definitely brought up more emotion, more reaction, more reactivity from me. And if I could turn back time, I would tell myself this. Your kiddo isn't defying you. Somehow their brain is protecting them. So let's talk about brain science. When we believe our child is being defiant, our instinct is to push harder, to assert our authority, to raise the stakes. And when that doesn't work, and it usually doesn't, we spiral. I must be doing something wrong. Why can't I get this right? But here's what's actually happening neurologically. When emotions run high, when there's conflict or overwhelm, or there's just been too much going on that morning, the brain shifts into protection mode. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for reasoning, impulse control, and the ability to actually hear and take in what you're saying, it temporarily goes offline, kind of like our internet on occasion. So what looks like defiance may simply be overwhelm. What certainly sometimes feels like resistance may actually just be emotional dysregulation. And this is important right here. This is also true for us. When we're activated, our own prefrontal cortex isn't fully available either, which means the more we push in those moments, the less either of us can access the part of the brain that could actually help. So the shift from defiance, assuming our child is defiant, to dysregulation isn't just a kinder label. It tangibly changes 3 things. The first thing it changes is what you do. Instead of escalating, you ask yourself, how can I emotionally regulate right now? You slow down. You soften your voice. You might take a break. You create safety instead of a feeling of pressure. This is the response that actually works. It certainly isn't the easier one to learn. It's not the natural one to do for some of us. The second thing, it tangibly changes how you feel about yourself. Defiance feels personal. Like you feel like that child is defiant, that makes you feel disrespected, undermined. Dysregulation is neurological. It's proven. It's not about you. It's just how your brain functions, your nervous system. That one distinction removes a huge emotional charge from the moment. And when you stay more regulated, you stay more capable. The third thing it changes is what your child experiences from you. Kids feel whether they're being seen as a problem to manage or as a person who's struggling. When you approach your child with understanding, they feel it. And that sense of being safe with you, that is what actually builds cooperation and trust over time. Not the consequences, not the raised voice. Lest you think this was an easy reframe for me, it was not. I was neither taught in this way as a child, nor did my early mothering approach reflect this video. It's not how I approached it. It's not how I experienced it. It's not what I thought was happening. This has been a long journey for me to come to understand and actually work out in real time. And what I've seen over and over and over is that when kids feel heard, they appear more respectful. They appear more connected and engaged because they are being heard. They're being understood in their true context. But all of us have moments of emotional dysregulation. When we understand our child through that reframe, everything can change. So what can you practically do? You can learn to pause. The beginning stages are actually quite challenging to learn to pause and to recognize even when you are emotionally dysregulated or that your child is emotionally dysregulated and not defiant. I really like the words from Gordon Neufeld in his work on attachment parenting. He talks about collecting our children before directing our children, collecting their hearts, like getting a connection with them before we direct them to do something. It's not intuitive, but it works. One practical strategy that our group coaching conversation discussed was decompression time. Instead of forcing a conversation when things are heated, you step back. Sometimes you can set a gentle timer. You give everyone's nervous system a little space to settle, because resolution rarely happens when brains are activated, when they're dysregulated, in survival mode. Now, here's where our conversation got really interesting, because we started talking about our kids, and then we realized something. There is another voice in the room, not just our voice and our child's voice. There's another voice inside of us, the voice that says things like, I shouldn't be struggling with this. I'm failing at this. My kids should be behaving differently. These thoughts are so familiar, so automatic, we often mistake them for truth. We think, I'm having this thought, therefore it must be accurate. But here's the thing about the inner critic, that other voice. It doesn't just make you feel bad. It keeps you activated. It's like fuel on the fire. When that voice is running the show, you are less regulated, which means you have less access to being patient, to giving yourself grace, to giving other people grace, to the grounded version of yourself that your kiddo actually needs. So in our coaching group, we did something different. Instead of trying to push the thought away or talk ourselves out of it, we got curious. We asked, is this thought, actually true? And moms noticed something profound. The emotional intensity softened before anything external changed. Nothing about the situation had even shifted yet. The child hadn't suddenly become compliant, but when we questioned the story, instead of reacting from it, frustration began to loosen. Patience became more accessible. Compassion expanded for themselves and their kids. That is the work. This is the work that starts inside, not outside. If this is resonating with you, I want to invite you to a workshop I'm running called the Calm the Inner Critic Workshop. We go through this exact process together in a supported, warm environment. It's happening Friday, February 27th. The link is below. You're welcome to join us. Once we understood what's happening in our children's brains and what's happening in our own, the natural next question was, okay, so what do we actually do in those hard moments? This is where that reflective listening comes in. Reflective listening is a core principle of nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. If you haven't already been introduced to this concept of reflective listening, ask me for the video on nonviolent communication or relationships by Marshall Rosenberg, and I'll grab it for you. This core principle sounds deceptively simple, but it's one of the most powerful things you can offer your kiddo when they are emotionally dysregulated. It's also super useful in your relationship with your partner too, but I'll focus this video especially on your relationship with your child. Reflective listening isn't about fixing what other people think. It's not correcting what they think. It's not even agreeing with what they think. It's simply deep listening, witnessing, really making someone feel heard. It's saying, I hear you. I understand what you're saying, but without those words, you literally reflect back what they're saying. Even when you don't agree with their perspective, even when their upset feels completely unreasonable to you, the act of being truly heard is regulating for the nervous system because it signals safety. Think about it this way. Your kiddo's brain is in protection mode. And instead of offering a lecture or a consequence or chores, you can offer, okay, I need to slow down because I want to hear you. You're not rewarding bad behavior when this is happening. You're giving that kiddo's nervous system a signal that it's safe and you can come back online. You're creating the conditions where an actual conversation can become possible, and that is connection. That's what opens the door back to calm. Here's the insight that landed most deeply in our coaching group, and I want you to really sit with this one. Your inner dialogue becomes part of your kid's inner world. The way you speak to yourself, the harshness or the gentleness, the self-criticism or the self-compassion. They're listening. They're absorbing. They are learning how to talk to themselves by watching how you talk to yourself. When you soften your self-judgment, your inner critical voice, you model that it's safe to not be perfect. When you question a harsh story instead of spiraling in it, you're showing them that thoughts aren't always facts. When you replace criticism with curious questions, you're teaching them that mistakes are something to get interested in, not something to fall under. So the work of calming your own critic, I'll bet you don't have that as part of your homeschool curriculum, but it's possibly one of the most important things that you could include in your homeschool curriculum. Because as Charlotte Mason shared with us, homeschooling is not just an educational environment. She didn't use these words, but I think it's accurate. It's an emotional ecosystem, and you are at the heart of that emotional ecosystem. So as you continue in your week, I want to leave this with you. Just notice. Notice when irritation rises. Notice when frustration starts to build. Notice what your inner critic is saying. And then gently ask yourself, what story am I believing right now? Your only goal is self-awareness. Because sometimes the most powerful shifts in your homeschool life do not begin with changing your kids. They begin with changing your relationship with yourself. If what we talked about today really spoke to you, especially around the inner critic, I have a workshop made specifically for this. It's called the Calm the Inner Critic workshop. We go through the exact process of noticing and questioning the automatic stories in a supported, warm group environment. This is genuinely transformative work. It's had a huge shift on everything for me. The link is right below this video. I would love to see you there. And if you want more conversations like this one, the kind that remind you that you're not alone in this homeschool mom experience, and that small internal shifts really do create big external changes, make sure you're subscribed to the Confident Homeschool Mom podcast. You'll find that in the podcast playlist here on YouTube. There's a new episode dropping this week titled The Inner Critic Loop that's draining your homeschool and what to do in the moment. I'm so glad you could spend time with me today. What you're doing really matters, and you are more capable than your hardest days make you feel. I'll see you next time.